Today, we are diving deep into the mind of Éliphas Lévi. This is the man who looked at the messy, chaotic world of sorcery, alchemy, and old grimoires and somehow forged it all into a single, coherent system. You could absolutely argue he's the single most important figure in all of modern Western magic.
And this sentence, this is pretty much the key to his entire universe. For Lévi, magic wasn't really about dusty old books or strange, spooky rituals. No. When you boil it all down, it was about one thing: the focused, disciplined power of human will. The idea that your consciousness is literally the most powerful force in existence. But the man himself, well, he was a walking contradiction. He started out his life on a path to the Catholic priesthood, but he was also a radical socialist who got thrown in prison for his revolutionary writings. Here's the guy just torn between faith and rebellion, between living in poverty and having this profound influence on the world.
And that gets us to the real heart of the matter. Was Lévi just a kind of philosopher, cataloging all these ancient secrets? Or did he, in trying to build this grand system, actually create a blueprint for a powerful and, maybe a dangerously powerful metaphysical technology?
To really get a handle on his work, you have to understand the man's life. You can't separate the magic from the magician here. His journey took him from the quiet halls of a seminary to a cold prison cell. His whole life was this story of tragedy and rebellion, and that's what seemed to fuel his search for some kind of hidden order behind it all. The man who would become Éliphas Lévi, Alphonse Constant, he was forged in fire. Think about it. He falls in love, leaves the seminary, and his mother commits suicide in response. That's a brutal blow. Then he gets in prison for his radical ideas attacking the church. His personal life was a complete train wreck. It's only after all of this chaos that he basically reinvents himself. He translates his birth name into Hebrew, becoming Éliphas Lévi, and then publishes the book that changes everything. It's like all that suffering became the raw material for his life's work.
So this brings us to what he actually built. You see, Lévi's real genius wasn't in inventing something totally new out of thin air. No, it was in taking centuries of disconnected, fragmented traditions and weaving them together into this grand, unified theory of magic. Before him, magic was just a jumbled mess. You had all these different grimoires, folk rituals, half-baked interpretations of Kabbalah, alchemy. It was all over the place. Lévi comes along and basically says, hold on, these aren't all separate things. They're all just different parts of one single machine, a single operating system for reality. He gave it a structure, a framework, and a kind of scientific logic that it just never had before.
So how did he do it? His method was to fuse everything together. He took the ancient Jewish mysticism of Kabbalah, with its blueprint of reality called the Tree of Life, and he basically said, okay, this is the system's circuit board. Then, he took the 22 major arcana cards from the Tarot, which up until then was mostly just a card game, and he mapped them onto the 22 pathways of that circuit board. And just like that, boom, the Tarot wasn't just for telling fortunes anymore, it was a coded instruction manual for the entire cosmos. This whole synthesis, which also pulled in ideas from Hermetic philosophy and alchemy, became the foundational software for pretty much all of Western magic that came after him. Okay, so if magic is an operating system, what's the power source? What's the electricity running through those circuits? This brings us to the most important and honestly the most audacious idea in all of Lévi's work. Now you have to remember, Lévi was writing this during the Industrial Revolution. Steam power was changing the world. And here he comes, claiming to understand a force that made steam look like a child's toy. He's talking about an invisible, universal energy that if you could just understand it and direct it, could change the very fabric of reality. He called this force the astral light, or sometimes the great magical agent. The best way to think about it is like this: it's the invisible Wi-Fi of the universe. It's a universal, programmable fluid that everything is swimming in. Every thought you have, every word you say, every symbol you draw, it all leaves an imprint on this stuff. It is the bridge between your mind and the physical world. It's the medium that turns your intention into an actual thing. And for Lévi, this was not a metaphor. It was a real, tangible substance.
So if the astral light is the operating system of reality, how do you write code for it? How does a magician actually do anything? Well, according to Lévi, this isn't just guesswork. It's a technology with clear, repeatable steps.
It's basically a three-step process. First, the magician uses their focused will, along with symbols and maybe a ritual, to create a really specific energetic pattern. Think of it like writing a perfect line of code. Second, That pattern is forcefully imprinted onto the astral light. And third, the astral light, which Lévi said is like a perfectly neutral mirror, has no choice but to reflect that pattern back, causing it to show up in the physical world. It's a direct chain of cause and effect, from your mind to the astral to physical matter.
All right, we can't talk about Lévi without talking about his most infamous creation, the Baphomet. For almost everyone, this image is just Satan, a demon. But for Lévi, this was never, ever a demon to be worshipped. It was a diagram, a super condensed technical schematic of all the cosmic forces we've been talking about.
So let's just break it down. The torch between the horns, that's the flame of enlightened consciousness, which has to rule over the animal instincts of the goat head. The two arms, one pointing up and one pointing down, that shows the core magical formula, solve et coagula, which means to dissolve old forms and then coagulate or build new ones. The androgynous body, with both female breasts and a male phallus, that's not about gender. It's about the essential balance of all polarities in the universe, light and dark, masculine and feminine, mercy and severity. Creation, according to Lévi, happens right in the tension between these opposites. This isn't a picture of some monster. It's an instruction manual.
And this brings us to the final and honestly the most brutal secret hidden inside Lévi's entire system. He basically gave us a technology for hacking the fabric of reality, but it's a technology that comes with a terrifyingly high price if you fail.
Lévi is crystal clear about this. There are only two ways it can go. Either you become the architect, the one who has achieved such total mastery over their own mind, their emotions, their desires, that the astral light just perfectly mirrors their will, or you become the prey. If your inner world is a chaotic mess, full of fear and obsession and all kinds of unresolved trauma, you don't command the astral light. You just leak energy into it, and you attract what he called astral larvae, these psychic parasites that just love to feed on that kind of chaotic energy.
And here's the really unforgiving part. The astral light is just a mirror. It doesn't care if you have good intentions, it just reflects your actual state of being. So the system is inherently dangerous, because if you try to use it without first getting your own house in order, the forces you call up will just amplify and mirror back every single unhealed, unaligned, and chaotic part of yourself. The machine starts to eat its own operator.
So, when you strip it all away, after all the complex diagrams and the secret doctrines, the ultimate secret of Éliphas Lévi's magic is devastatingly simple. You don't learn magic to control the world, you learn to master yourself so completely that the world has no choice but to fall in line. The outside is always just a reflection of the inside, end of story.
And that leaves us right here, with the central paradox of his entire legacy. He gave us a map, a systematic path to reunite the human soul with the divine. But by revealing the mechanics of this unforgiving cosmic machine, did he also hand us the most efficient blueprint for self-destruction ever created? That's the question his work just forces you to ask.